Live, this is KDLT News at 10 on NBC.
Water traveling at 170 miles an hour shooting out of the Oahe Dam near Pier tonight. The volume of water is a new record for the floodgates. Good evening, I'm Tom Hansen.
And I'm Jennifer Hudspeth. Thanks for joining us tonight. All that water below the dam has people nervous. After facing the challenge of having to construct their own levee, the residents of a Fort Pier neighborhood finally finished today, just in time for the final increase from the dam.
KDLT's Maren Larson tells us how residents are putting their faith in what they have built.
The streets of Marion's Garden sit quiet now that the crews have finished sandbag walls and the levee.
There's not very many people in here. There were a few days ago, but they needed a break.
After expected water levels changed by the Corps, the levee these residents created needed to be built up another 2 feet.
When the Corps said we had to go higher, we just, we just said, hey, well, we'll get the equipment back and up we go. That's our major line of defense right there is that levee system.
The levee around Marion's Garden is now complete, including an additional 2 feet. But now the job of the contractors is to maintain them.
Every day when you see trucks running, they're, beefing up a spot here because it's a little low. I mean, now they're in the maintenance type of thing. So yeah, we're confident as all get out they're going to hold, but we're prepared if they don't.
South Dakota National Air Guard patrol the levee in 12-hour shifts, and residents say without their help, it would be almost impossible to make sure the wall holds.
And they continually walk these levees, and what they're looking for is a new pool of water someplace, a crack someplace, a change in the, we've got a string line set out on that dike system. Is there a change in that straight line? We got posts underneath them to see if we're getting shift on the dike.
Residents say now they must deal with the emotions that come with protecting their homes and also leaving their houses behind.
Our spirits are pretty high and they're staying there right now, but I mean, it's been an emotional roller coaster. We've hit that bottom area. Let's go uphill.
With faith in what they have built. Maren Larson, KDLT News, Fort Pier.
Most of the people from Marion's Garden have moved out of their homes, but they come back periodically to check on their property.
As we told you earlier, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers increased the amount of water coming from the Oahe Dam today. Tonight, the water is pushing through the dam at 150,000 cubic feet per second. And now that all 6 of the gates are open, visitors say the sight is like nothing they've ever seen before.
The power of it, it's just incredible. And pictures and video don't do it justice. The roar you can hear too, but it's just incredible the amount of force that, is happening right now.
The volume of water being released from the Oahe Dam will remain at this level until July 15th. While people have moved many items out of their homes because of the flooding, there are some things the Mighty Mo decided to move herself.
There are what many people are calling missiles in river parlance on the river. Everything from refrigerators to propane tanks to logs to parts of decks are floating down the river.
Because of the dangerous debris, Governor Dugard says he's asked the Coast Guard to close the Missouri to recreational traffic from Gavin's Point south to Iowa.
Crews in both Pier and Fort Pier now turn their attention from building emergency levees to keeping water out of the storm sewer system. Over the weekend, water from the Missouri River started flowing through the drains into the city streets, and that's when reinforcements were brought in. KDLT's Jenna Mann shows us how they're sealing off the system one drainage tunnel at a time.
Justin Pileski has been a trained work diver for almost a decade.
I was living out in San Francisco, and a neighbor of mine talked about underwater welding, and I had been doing some welding at that time, and one thing led to another.
But this job is very different from welding. He slides into Fort Pier's storm sewer system through individual drains to seal it off.
And the storm sewers usually have outfalls that just drain right into the river, and they get overlooked when the levees get put in, and then it's like a freeway for water to come back under the levees.
Some of them will leak quite easily, and you end up having water where you don't want it.
The process moves fairly quick. While in the water, Pileski feels around for the drainage tunnel because he can't see, and then inserts a rubber plug. Once it's in place, crews up top inflate the plug so it stays put.
A lot of times we have a hard time finding the location of pipes out in the river. That would be our biggest time consumer.
It sounds simple enough, but managers say the work is extremely dangerous.
It's a really dangerous situation when the plug could get sucked up in there. If a diver gets his body up against it, it can trap him on it.
Project managers say while plugging the storm system does keep the streets dry, there is a downside.
We'll have to have traffic control out here, have people watching the weather literally for when it rains, because now water can't escape and get to the river.
Which means more resources and manpower are needed to keep Fort Pierre dry.
We have to get several pumps in place because basically the water that comes from storms we have to pump, and that'll be an effort in itself.
An effort that will keep residents on alert long into summer. Jenna Mann, KDLT News, Fort Pierre.
Now, the majority of people who bought flood insurance after learning about the increased releases from the dam won't be covered. The spokesman for the Federal Emergency Management Agency say anyone who bought the insurance after May 2nd will not be covered. FEMA says flood insurance underwritten by the federal government does not take effect until 30 days after it's purchased. The official start of the flood is listed as June 1st because that's when the Garrison Dam in North Dakota began releasing more water.
The city of Sioux Falls continues to offer help to the flooded communities across the state. The street division sandbagging machine is stationed in Yankton. 2 Sioux Falls police officers are supporting law enforcement in Pierre. Sioux Falls Fire Rescue has a water rescue team in Dakota Dunes, and several law enforcement officers have been deployed to Pierre and Dakota Dunes to be a part of state incident management teams.
Cody, things starting to cool off down there at all?
Yeah, a little bit, but of course it was a hot day today, so things are going to take a while to cool off. In fact, we saw highs in the 90s, 77 though right now in Sioux Falls. Skies are still clear. Winds have calmed from a pretty breezy afternoon, which is certainly some good news. Check out the highs. Again, 93 in Sioux Falls, 99 though in Sioux City. That was a record. 99 also in Spencer, 95s for Worthington and Marshall. 87 though in Aberdeen, 81 in Mobridge with some cooler air beginning now to filter in across the north and west. Did see a few storms in North Dakota, but that's where they're going to stay, and we're just leading to a mostly clear evening. Could see an isolated storm develop across sections of the southeast. However, the big story is going to be much cooler weather moving in tomorrow, and the roller coaster ride of temperatures will begin as well. Have those details coming up here in a few minutes. You guys, back over to you.
Thanks, Cody. An Iowa man charged with 2 counts of attempted murder made his initial court appearance in Pennington County today. 39-year-old Thomas Peterson of Greene, Iowa, was arrested near Kadoka on Sunday. Authorities in Iowa began looking for Peterson after his wife was found stabbed to death in their home, and their 2-year-old boy was missing. Police say Peterson led them on a car chase through rural Jackson County. Peterson's 2-year-old son was in the vehicle at the time, but was let out of the car before a crash ended the chase. Today, a judge granted a no bond order, and a preliminary hearing for Peterson is scheduled in Kadoka on June 16th.
A Sioux Falls middle school teacher will spend 45 years behind bars. 26-year-old Nicholas Jastorf had sexual relationships with 2 students. He worked at Patrick Henry Middle School as a special education teacher. Now, police say some of the encounters happened at the school. KDLT's Melissa Payne has the story.
Something needed to be done to stop this criminal activity.
Instead of walking down the halls of Patrick Henry Middle School, Nicholas Jastorf walks down the halls of the Minnehaha County Jail.
I don't know that anyone that engages in a course of continuous conduct like that has any sense of the reality of the impact they're having on those child victims.
But Minnehaha County State's Attorney Aaron McGowan says the girls live with the impact every day, as they must still walk down the same halls where their teacher sexually assaulted them and violated their trust.
And these poor girls had to endure horrific bullying and ridicule, and kids talk and kids are mean, and this was a very difficult situation for these children.
We know when working on other cases like this, it can be a badge that follows them through the rest of their lives.
One victim wrote a letter to the judge to tell Jastorf, "I never wanted to be in this position. You made me lie to protect you. You made me think lying and us being together was okay."
He actually used that position and trust to try to manipulate them to cover up his crimes and ask them to delete a lot of these messages right after he would send them.
And McGowan says Jastorf robbed the girls of their innocence and robbed the entire community of its sense of safety.
We've got parents that don't feel comfortable dropping off their kids at school, or maybe think twice if their child gets special attention by a teacher so that they can excel in school.
Now, a doctor performed a psychosexual evaluation on Jastorf and says he suffers from emotional immaturity and believes Jastorf is not a sexual predator. McGowan says Jastorf sent nearly 1,300 messages to the two teens in just 6 days. Those text messages served as evidence during the case.
A man who was brought in to help get the Sioux Empire Fair back on its feet is leaving. Still ahead on KDLT News, we'll find out why.
You're watching KDLT News, part of your community for over 50 years. Now, your KDLT weather forecast.
I'm tired of this hot weather. How about you?
I know. I'm ready for a cool down.
You know, if this were 2 months ago, they'd be, or not even that, 3 weeks ago, it'd be, I'm tired of the cold weather. Let's bring some heat. I can't win.
No.
I'm kidding.
But I know. But you notice all the haze around here the last couple of days. It's been really hazy.
Saw
typically,
the moon looked a little orange.
Yeah, and typically it's because of all the moisture we have in the air this time of the year. Well, it's actually not because of that. You can thank some of the wildfires down in Arizona. This is, I can't even remember what they're calling this fire, but one of the largest in Arizona history, burning near the New Mexico border. Check out the smoke plume from this thing. Now, this picture was taken more than 10 miles away from the actual fire, and it is just releasing a lot of smoke, and that's what's actually causing our haze. Southwesterly winds literally drawing it right in to sections of South Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa, areas of Minnesota. I actually blogged on this earlier. You can check that out at kdlt.com. But check out all the clear skies despite some of the smoke in the atmosphere. Some thunderstorms in sections of North Dakota, a few more across the southeast, but there's just a lot of clear skies, and that led to a pretty good heat wave across most of the country today. 93 in Sioux Falls.